welcome to episode 2. I just want to say, I'm overwhelmed with the response of episode 1. Lots of great comments, some wonderful feedback, lots of likes. It's been a fantastic response really from the community, so thank you very much. I've enjoyed reading all the comments and stuff. It's wonderful to hear how many people play Legion, like with their girlfriends, with their wives and stuff like that, and also people playing with their kids. I think that's really nice to hear, especially to find that Legion and Star Wars is like connecting generations really. So I think there's a film out there for everyone of all ages really, for them to like, whether it be from the 80s with the original trilogy or the modern day films, with the Skywalker trilogy and stuff like that. So that's really good to see and hear. So before we move on, I just want to mention a few of the standout comments and things, stuff that I really liked that people mentioned, and just give the certain individuals a shout out. So I've written these down so just so I didn't forget them. So first one I'll mention, Daniel Conway left a great comment about Thrawn, about how he had the lizards that were like anti-force and they stopped Jedis from using the force and stuff that he had. I thought what a great idea it would be to give Thrawn that ability, probably attached to a command card I suggested, as I think it would be too powerful if it was turned on all the time. It would just neutralise the Jedi and Force users too much in Legion. But how cool would it be on like Thrawn's 1 pip if Force users couldn't use their powers and stuff? And the thing that really stands out there for me is, how many games of Legion have you lost, let's say key positions for example, where you've got a unit on that key position, it's turn 6, in moves Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, Force pushes you off and you lose the objective. So just think, if Thrawn turned off Force powers within a range 1 ability on his command card, 1 pip, how strong that would be. And I think it'd be really fitting of Thrawn. I think that would be nice to have in the game to combat Force push. Also, Ori Harrison, one of our Patreons, said, you could give Jango Fett or the bounty hunters in general the Camino dart. And I like that as well. Nice fitting to Attack of the Clones. And so, like, for example, it would, you would roll your attack rolls, let's say it's like 2 black, but it would leave a poison token behind, whether it runes or not. A bit like Bosk's Dioxis charge. And then that way you're guaranteed to do 1 wound, bit of an anti-Jedi weapon, so it's hard to push through them wounds on surging defense dice and stuff. And I really liked that idea also. And then final one to mention, Ninja Duck suggested, what about a clone like commander upgrade pack, a bit like the super tactical droid, where you'll get like some named clone commanders. For example, you could have Cody or Wolfie. They'll have their like separate command cards as well in there, and then you could have like different profiles for them commanders and kick them out how you want. A bit like the super tactical droid for CIS, and I thought that was a really good idea also, and would help out Gar a little bit. Before we get into the episode, I want to thank our new patrons and all our existing patrons. Thank you very much for the support, and welcome to everyone that's new in our Discord. And one little thing that Nick pointed out to us that I didn't know was over 50% of our viewers are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you are enjoying the content, the battle reports, the podcast and things like that, then please do subscribe and click that bell. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about in this episode? So in the painting section or the hobby section, I'm going to talk about how I approach painting and a little bit about how to batch paint and things like that. And then in the Legion section, we're going to talk about new future battle cards for battle decks and maybe some terrain expansions and how they could tie together. But what have I been up to this week? So I've had a busy week really when it comes to the channel. Been doing some upgrades, so I made a new dice box, so hopefully now we'll be able to get the camera a little bit closer on our new dice box. Nick asked for an extra inch as well on the side, so Nick's going to get that extra inch, so hopefully he's not going to be chucking dice out the box all the time, so hope you appreciate that, Nick. What else have I done? I've been making 2 new terrain videos as well. One's a very simple one for beginners, and then the other one's a little bit more hands-on crafts and materials and stuff like that. One's a statue and one is like craters and stuff, so a bit of like cover area terrain, and we'll have videos coming for them as well in the near future. What else have I done? Upgraded the doors on the studio. It's winter time now and it's freezing cold in the studio, so I've boarded out the doors, added some insulation, so hopefully it should be a little bit warmer for us to play and film our battles. Yeah, so busy week alongside some painting and stuff as well, so which we will talk about momentarily. From a painting point of view, this week I've finished off the Magna Guard, so I've got one unit fully done and I've got the other half completed. If we take a look at the unit that I've completed, they look real nice. I'll try and get the camera to focus there for you. There we go. I've added in some object source lighting. It's not something that I normally do, but I wanted to try my hand out, trying to learn a new skill. I'm quite happy with how they've turned out. That's the unit leader. There's the rocket guy. Real nice minis. I've enjoyed painting them, tried some new techniques and stuff, and then finally there's the other heavy with the whip. Real nice. Hopefully I'll get them in a battle report very soon, and then this evening my plan is to build the Super Tac droid. This was a little Christmas present from Santa, so looking forward to building him and some more new units for CIS, and hopefully combine them two in a battle report in the very near future. Okay, let's talk a little bit about painting and how to paint, as in the area in which you use, what listen to, my approach to making painting enjoyable for myself and getting through it basically. So let's talk about your environment, the space in which that you paint. So over the years, I've used different areas really of the house. I used to paint at the dining room table, just because I didn't want to really just be on my own in a room painting sort of thing. I wanted to stay around the family so you can chat. You know, it gets a bit boring at times just painting. So I just used to paint at the dining room table, and I enjoyed that, using the social hub of the house really, and with the family around. So it does have its disadvantages though, and the things, distractions would be one. Getting called away, not completing minis. Okay, so this question was sent to me by Tim Pye, one of our patrons. He sent it over in our Discord, and he asked me how I approach painting, what I listen to, how I approach batch painting and stuff like that. So I thought it was a great question, so thank you very much, Tim. So let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk about painting and the way in which I approach it, basically to make it enjoyable, but importantly get things completed, get them on the table, so we can enjoy them for battle reports. As for me personally, that's what I enjoy the most. I paint to play games, get them on the table. Depending on what you do, some people just paint miniatures for display pieces and things like that, and just for the enjoyment of the hobby of painting, and that's also cool. But I think the end game is to get a mini completed, and it's not always easy. Let's talk about the environment to painting. So over the years, I've painted in different environments, different areas of the house, basically. I used to paint at the dining room table, just because I wanted to spend like time with the wife, you know, so you can chat and stuff like that. Just because painting sometimes can be a bit isolating if you're just sitting in a room on your own, so to speak. And I enjoyed that. I used to get quite a bit done. There can be distractions, obviously, because you're in more the social hub of the house. But I did enjoy it, and I did get lots of things completed. It does have disadvantages. So the biggest thing for me was having to get my paints out, and when I finished, put all the paints away. And it wasn't too bad at the time. I only had about 30 paints, which used to keep them in a box. But it would put me off sometimes. Let's say I only have an hour to paint. The thought of having to get all my brushes, all my paints out, set up my painting station, I just think, oh, I can't really be bothered. I've only got an hour, I'll leave it. So I didn't get as much painting done. Then as the channel's grown and we've got more serious with it, I needed a space really, and through some negotiations with the wife, I managed to take over the little box room in the house where I am now. It's sort of my little painting studio, can use it for recording and stuff like that. Them negotiations wasn't aggressive negotiations. She's real good to me and she didn't mind. Plus, I think she was happy to get rid of all my mess out of the dining room, if I'm honest. So now I have a little painting room. That works really well for me because I can just leave things in different sections, where, as in a process where they are, you know, stuff that I need to build, stuff that's built, stuff that's primed, stuff that's halfway through painted, that sort of thing. So I've got a little section, an order in which I like to keep things so I know where I am in that process. Now, if you are struggling for space, you know, there's lots of things and products out there, like small tables, painting trays, storage boxes for paints and stuff like that. So they're well worth looking into if you're just getting into the hobby and you don't have much room. There are space saving ideas out there, well worth looking at. If you have got an area, fantastic, you know, you can set it up and stuff and, you know, you're good to go. There's no excuse really then for you not to get that painting complete, and you shouldn't have a pile of shame that's as big as mine behind me down here, basically things that I've still got to paint, but I will get to them eventually. So once you've got your area and you set up, how do I come to paint and stuff? So normally I paint late in the evening, when the kids are asleep and everyone else has gone to bed. There's a bit of downtime there and it doesn't take away from time with the family and stuff. So I paint late on the night, normally probably between the hours of 9:30 till 12 o'clock. And just a couple of hours every evening. Sometimes it's only an hour, but I found little and often definitely helps me get minis complete, and that works for me. I like to, obviously I think everybody enjoys painting the characters, painting the heroes. When it comes to doing that, it's great. I don't really need to find the motivation to come and paint, let's say, like, you know, for example, the Super Tactical Draw. I'm really looking forward to doing that. So, and it's a one-off mini. I'm going to enjoy that process. It's when you've got lots of miniatures to paint, that it can be more difficult. So for example, let's say if you're just taking on CIS and you've bought a couple of core sets and you've got lots and lots of droids to paint, it can be a bit daunting. Same again with clones, rebels, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you've got 3, 4, 5, 6 of the same units, same colours to paint, then that feeling of overwhelm, I don't want to do it, does get a bit much. And that's where I find like batch painting comes in. It's not as enjoyable, but when I batch paint, I just paint to get the job complete. Set them up, have a little conveyor belt of like sort of how you're going to do it. So let's say you're painting, let's take clones as an example. Now, I found when I was painting clones, same with stormtroopers, you're just painting a lot of white, so there's not a variety of interest to the minis. I set them up, and let's say you paint all the under layers, so all the bits under the plate armour that's black, same with stormtroopers, same with clones, get all that done. Let's say I'm setting out my limit at 14. Now I've found when I batch paint, if I try to do more than 14, I lose interest and I don't get it done. So 14 is a nice number. You'll find your own number. For some people it'll be less, some people will be able to paint way more and they're happy with it. Just depends on your speed, your experience and stuff. So I would paint all that black first, then go to the next steps. I've done 14 black in between the armours. Then I might choose to do the weapons because they're probably going to be black as well. And I'm going to paint all the blasters, all 14, all done. Then you're going to move to the white, touch up the white where you've gone over with the black. Next step, add the wash, apply my black wash, all 14 are done. And that's how you batch paint. It's sometimes you might be painting like rifles for an hour and it gets a bit tedious. It steals a little piece of your soul sometimes, but at the end of it, when you've batch painted for like a couple of days and you've completed 4 units and it's all done, it's real nice because then you can get them onto the table. And that's where I've found batch painting to be useful. It's not my preferred method because it's unenjoyable, but if you've got a goal, set it. Say today I'm doing 2 units worth of blasters or 2 units worth of capes on the rebels, so the commandos for example, and you just get that done. You complete the task, you feel good about it, and you're closer to getting them miniatures fully painted and ready for the table. So I found batch painting really helped me collecting 4 different factions for Legion and trying to get things painted and onto the table. If you start to struggle, it's fine. Take a break, pick up a different miniature and paint something different. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting things painted. Don't get to the point where this has happened to me in the past, not with Legion, but with other miniature games where I've built so much and it all just sits on the side and then I just don't come and paint because it's just so overwhelming. So now I keep a box with unbuilt miniatures, a desk with things that are ready to be painted, and then I approach it that way. The task doesn't grow too big and it doesn't become overwhelming for me. So that's sort of how I approach the actual way of painting. Also, having things to listen to. It's great, you know, if you, like I said, I paint late at night. If I've had a busy day, sometimes it can just be a bit of classical music, something chilled out, something quiet. Other times it's podcasts. I like listening to like historical stuff, like, you know, World War II, Egyptian stuff about Egypt, things like that, that can be quite educational. Also, I don't mind, you know, the stuff from Disney, The Bad Batch. In fact, I watched all the Clone Wars by painting all like 7 seasons, and that helped me get through a big chunk. I'm not someone that puts a film on because I find if I put a film on, I'll end up watching the film and I'm not really doing much painting. So I way prefer audio more than visual stuff, but I didn't mind the animated stuff. And I've also found that audio books are great. So if I'm batch painting, I'll probably put headphones on, get an audio book on, and then just try and lose myself in the audio book so I'm not like really thinking about the tedious task. All them things have really helped me. The Land's a great audio book if people don't want something to listen to. I've really enjoyed that. It's like a lit RPG, and I've listened to all of them while doing painting. So yeah, that's kind of how I approach painting, batch painting and stuff. Hope you found that useful. Okay, let's move on to talking about Legion. Okay, so the next question that was sent in by Mr. Cheesy and Daxel48, and they asked, do you think we'll see future terrain expansions from AMG? And yes, I think we will. How they're going to work, I ain't sure, but I've got a couple of ideas of what I would like to see. But I imagine it's going to be something more for the Clone Wars factions, as we've had stuff for the Civil War era. So probably something along the lines, and this is what they suggested, was like a downed lat or a downed gunship would make a really nice terrain piece for a centre of a board, and I kind of agree. It would be easy to put missions and stuff in there, like Lost Pilot or supplies and stuff like that, where you've got to find them or destroy them, whatever really. But I think it's an easy narrative for them to take, and it gives us a nice ship that people want to probably see in the game, really. I think where they've struggled in the past, like with the bunker, the downed ATST and stuff, is just its price point. For me, it's just not appealing. As someone that will make terrain, and I know 3D printing's exploded like recently, resin printers and stuff like that, it's just like, I'm not willing to pay £50 for a downed ATST, and that's pretty much all you're getting, and it's nothing that crosses over into the actual game. I think that was the problem. Like, you know, I always see the bunker and the ATST on offer or in sales and stuff like that because the price point was so high. So I think that was the mistake with them. I think where FFG moved and did something really well was like they added C3PO and R2D2 to a pack. where you got a piece of terrain as well, and then you got something that worked for the game. And that was nice, I guess, for a casual player. That's great. You're getting a unit and you're getting a piece of terrain, as long as it's priced okay. I think where people that are more competitive or don't mind making their own terrain don't like that is, and I thought this was a little bit sneaky. Like R2D2 and C3PO was such a good unit. It was so underpriced, as we found out, as it's kept having price increases, as in points cost in the game. But then it was behind a barrier, so like you was only getting R2D2 and C3PO, but in the UK it was like £30 for the downed escape pod. So you had to pay £30 to get R2 and C3PO, which are two little miniatures, where a lot of people just weren't interested in the escape pod. They just wanted C3PO and R2D2. So I think somewhere along the line where you combine them two kind of works. So if we're talking about combining things that we might see as future products, it's James, another one of our patrons, asked what future battle deck cards do you think we might see? Now, I'd like to just tie them all together, potentially, if they could make that work. I think they could. So where you get something like new battle decks and a terrain piece. And then that way there's more incentive to buy that. You could even maybe, depending on like unit wise, add units to that. It's just going to depend on price. Obviously, I understand if you only play Empire and then all of a sudden you need the new battle deck cards, but you're paying for a unit, let's say for CIS, that you're never going to use. So I think it'd have to be units that can be cross-faction or something like that, so it appeals to more people. But tying them together and adding more value basically to the box is what needs to happen. So let's talk about some future battle deck cards that we would like to see. I've had a few ideas. I'm not saying they're great before we go there. This is something that, you know, I'm probably not the best at, thinking of games and not future things, but I sat down, had a little think, and this is what I come up with. So let's talk about deployments then. So we've got the deployments that we've got, and this one was quite difficult, trying to think of new ways in which you could set the table up that's different that we've got and just would add something new. So I thought like one would be like a spearhead, like a triangle almost shape, coming from the short edges of the board. So you would come out range 4, but in a range 1 square, basically, towards the middle of the table. So you could deploy quite far up, or you could sit back if you was playing a gun line, build your objectives around that, and that would be called like spearhead. So you could almost meet in the middle with fast units on turn 1 and sort of kick the game off aggressively if you wanted to. And then the other one I thought of was something a little bit like disarray, where disarray you're in the corners of the board, where this would be like called like drop zone, and you've got squares on the map already set up that you would deploy in as if you've been dropped in, like shock troopers or something like that. This would cause a bit of chaos, add some like random aggressiveness into the game like early, so you could almost have like one zone here, red, then blue, then red, then blue. So you kind of mixed in, and you have to deploy disarray, deploy 1 unit or 2 units, let's say, in each section. Something like that. I think it would be something very different than what we already have. And it would allow the game to kick off earlier, I think sometimes with some of the deployments, the early turns and stuff can be very standoffish, and don't get me wrong, that might suit people's style of play, and that's absolutely fine. You know, some people want to play gun lines, sit back, or play very defensively and look for small margins to edge out an advantage, where some people just want to get in, throw dice, and have a bit of chaos. And you know, I think there needs to be deployments and styles for each. And that was just 2 that I thought of. So it would be spearhead, moving towards the middle from the short edges, and then drop zone, which would be a bit more random and you'd be dotted around the map. Okay, let's talk objectives. So this one I really like. I've only come up with one, but I think this is the one that would actually work and really be a fun game to play. So I called it Upload, and you would both, each player, red and blue, would have a transmission like computer that they place range 1 from the center point of the battlefield. And then you will each have 5 pieces of intelligence to collect and upload onto the computer, basically. So you'll have 5 tokens, 5 red, 5 blue. And you can collect each other's as well. So it would be an action to claim and then an action to upload it onto the computer, and you would score 1 victory point for each piece of intelligence that you upload. So it'd be a high scoring game. You'd have to deploy the pieces of intel tokens, at least range 1 from each of that and range 1 from a deployment zone. Yeah, so, you know, being able to score 5 victory points or more if you capture your opponents, or 5-5 on a tie, I think would make the game very interesting. Like, you know, do you rush out and go and try and steal one of your opponents? Do you sit back, try and collect yours up and shoot other units off? I think you'd have to make it so you can only upload 1 piece of intelligence like per turn. So, you know, you'd have to plan when you're going to upload them. So there's only 6 turns for 5 pieces. Or if you're going to steal one, you know, you can only score then a maximum of 6. So no, sorry, change it. So you only 1 unit. So 1 unit can upload 1 piece per turn, just to stop, for example, like let's say Vader collecting all 5 and then on turn 6 just going and uploading all 5 at once. So if that makes sense, you could have a rebel trooper unit and then a rebel like special forces unit. They could both upload on the same turn. I just wouldn't want 1 unit collect them all up. I think that would be too powerful. But you'd have to think about, do you want to like have someone on defense? So like, would you send like, let's say Vader, for example, to go and guard your transmissions point to protect like from the enemy coming past and stealing yours? Or would you use him to go be aggressive and go and sit on your opponent's objective point so they can't upload anything? But I think that would really work. I think it would add for a bit of like dynamic play, having so many objective tokens to collect and scoring, so it would never be over until the end. I think that would be a really good mission to have, and I would call that Upload. So when it comes to conditions, I just tried to think of something that I want to see in the game but don't really know how to incorporate them into factions, and that would be like beasts or monsters. So for example, I thought of, how about we have like a Rancor, and that would tie in nicely with the terrain boxes and stuff and the future battle decks. You could actually get like the Rancor miniature on a sort of large base, or you could just have a large token for them if people don't want the miniature, but that would work either way. You give it a base profile and you have 2, like you place 1 and your opponent places 1. Or if there's just 1, for example, just because of cost of the box and stuff, you just have it start in the center of the board, and then it moves randomly towards the closest enemy unit. So saying, give it like a health, give it a speed, give it an attack profile, and then have it move randomly at the closest unit, or move at a unit that has attacked that, the Rancor basically. So then it would move around the table, interact, attack. It adds a bit more randomness to the game. I think it adds something that's cool that people would like to see. For example, in the Rancor, just make it speed 1 so it moves slow with a high health pool. Maybe give it red save so it can be quite difficult to kill, so it just doesn't get like blasted off the table very early. Maybe give it something like Enrage. Once it's got so many wounds, it moves speed 2 or something like that, just so it does impact on the game. I think that would be cool to have. And then the other thing that I was thinking is Tusken Raiders. You could have them set up at certain areas around the table, so you deploy them. You know, it's got to be range 2, let's say, from a deployment zone, and range 2 from each other, but they take pot shots at the end of the round. So if anything comes within range like 2 or 3 of them, let's say range 3, because they've got them long like rifles, they take shots. Give them a white attack dice and you just roll no, just give them no surges or nothing like that. So just white dice, so they can either hit you with a crit or they can hit you with just a normal hit, and then you get your defense save as you normally would. Think it would be quite cool. You know, you might think you're doing really well, and all of a sudden you get like a couple of shots from the Tusken Raiders and you lose a couple of minis. It would add suppression also as well, so it would stop units moving. I think it would be cool to have, and you could combine that. You've got that Tatooine feel with the Rancor and stuff. Building that into a box would be a nice idea. And then maybe one other that I thought of, and these are all things that are going to do damage and do wounds and add that bit more randomness to the game. Some people don't like that. People want full control, where some people like the chaos of the random dice rolling and stuff like that. But you could have like gas clouds, where you place the token, where anything comes within range 1 has to take a roll, basically a save. So roll a white dice on a shield that you're going to take a wound, basically. So you would avoid them areas, you would place yours, your opponent would place theirs, maybe just 2 each, and it's sort of just like would be very impactful on things like intercept the transmissions or VAPs and things. You put them on the VAP, it would stop units just sitting on back and being very defensive, or you'd have to wait outside of the gas cloud because you wouldn't want to keep having to roll the dice. Just a white dice, and you roll, you get a shield, you take a wound, sort of things. So you have a 1 in 6 chance. I think that would be nice to see. That my ideas, basically. That's what I come up with. So we have drop zones, again with random chaos, spearhead bringing you closer into the middle if you want to, or you sit back. And then we had the upload, which I think would be a fun game. I'd really like to see that. Might maybe even try and do a little play test and maybe play that. And then you've got your Rancor, your Tusken Raiders, or then maybe your gas clouds. So let us know what you'd like to see. If you've got some good ideas, let us know down in the comments. You know, I love hearing them, the things that people come up with, you know, better ideas than what I come up with, really. Some of the good ones and things I like, I'll probably shout it out on this next show. But yeah. One thing I just want to answer before I go, Tactical Chicken Gaming asked, what command card combos do you think are underrated? I'm not sure if this is an underrated one, but I wanted to bring this up anyway. I think it's a combo that we're going to see more of, and that I think is becoming very, very powerful. And that's the interaction with Vader's New Ways to Motivate and IRG and Dewbacks, basically. So what to look out for if your opponent's playing Vader and you've got Dewbacks with HQ uplinks. When you use New Ways to Motivate them and you pop the HQ uplinks, you can then take wounds to move like you do with New Ways to Motivate them, basically. So let's use the example of Operative Vader, and let's say you're playing 2 IRG and 2 Dewbacks with HQ uplink. It's Op Vader's got Seize the Initiative. On that turn, you'd use Seize the Initiative, gives Vader an order, give the 2 orders from the card to the 2 IRG units, and then with the 2 Dewbacks, pop your HQ uplinks. They've now got face-up orders. Now, this is where this works. If you're within striking range, you're going to be able to get into your opponent's forces and cause them a real bad day. So when you go with the Dewback, take a wound, you spur, you get 3 moves. In case you're getting an extra move, then you've got Relentless on the Dewback, so you're going to get your attack at the end of 3 speed 2 moves. On the IRG, you've got Charge, so it's the same. It makes your strike range 3 speed 2 moves, then an attack attached to them with the Relentless and the Charge keyword. I think that combo is really, really powerful. I wanted to mention it just because we was talking lists the other day in our Discord, and we've got a couple of people going to play in the big tournament over in Germany, and people was talking about lists, and Timbo put in a list that was like IRG, Dewbacks, HQ uplink, Vader, and it's just nasty. So I just thought I want to bring that up. If you see someone and they're playing that, Dewbacks, Vader, HQ uplinks, probably know that they're planning a big turn with new ways to motivate them. So just thought I'd answer that question for Tactical Chicken Gaming, and I thought it'd give us that to talk about. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. So before I end the show, just want to talk about name for the podcast. So we've had some great suggestions. I've written these down as well. So we had Crafty Transmissions, we had the Crafty Cast, and then one that I really liked was called the Escape Pod. Thought that was all cool names. Not picked one yet. For now, this podcast is going to remain the podcast that will not be named. Little nod to Boba Fett there. So yeah, just going to leave it. Give it a few more weeks. Take a few more suggestions, and then maybe pick one and see where we're at. So thank you to everyone that sent them in. Thanks to everyone for their questions. The response has been awesome. I've loved it. Really, really cool. 5 more questions. What else things you want me to talk about? I'm enjoying it. It's giving us content. And then in the next show, we'll see what we're going to do. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed. Remember, click that bell, leave us a like, and again, go check out our Patreon. But until next time, may all your rolls be crits. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.